Thank you first to the Library Publishing Forum organizers. This has been a really wonderful schedule of events, and we're so thrilled to be included. To everyone joining us, welcome to our panel celebrating the spring pilot implementation of the Next Generation Library Publishing Project. My name is Kate Herman. I am the project manager for NGLP, and in just a moment, I'll be introducing you to all three pilot representatives, as well as my colleague Dave. But first, I'd like to give a very brief introduction to NGLP as a whole. Our team has frequently given updates on our progress through forum presentations, so I'll keep this short and sweet. But if this is the first time you are hearing of us, I hope you'll take a look at our website, nglp2022.org, to access our public documentation or any other of the many materials we have online. There are lots of opportunities to get involved, and we would greatly appreciate your perspective. So, in a nutshell, NGLP is helping library publishers to build holistic solutions that combine software development with collaborative network development to sustain an open, scalable, values-aligned publishing system. It is quite a lot to tackle, but now that all the work from the past 18 months has come to fruition, and we have three wonderful pilots to share with you, we'll show you how these values-aligned software components and values-aligned service models go hand in hand. The three pilots represented by our panelists today were designed to test and showcase the many use cases that the NGLP components and partner solutions can support. Andy Byers, representing Janeway, will talk us through the first pilot, which uses NGLP components to combine journal and institutional repository publishing in an end-to-end service. Catherine Mitchell, both a co-PI of NGLP and Director of Publishing Archives and Digitization at California Digital Library, will walk us through how CDL is testing NGLP components against the needs of large-scale consortial library publishing environments. And finally, Clay Farr, Executive Director of Longleaf, will introduce Longleaf's journal-only pilot, a proof of concept for establishing an institution-based journal services business for existing and new journals that rivals commercial services in its abilities to offer cross-journal collection building, branding, and analytics. But before we hear more about the pilots themselves, I'll ask our product manager, Dave Pcolar, to tell us a bit more about the components that they are piloting.
Thank you, Kate. So as we approach this project, we did a lot of interviews, and conversations, and surveys with the library publishing community. And one of the things we were told over and over again is don't reinvent the wheel. Keep the components that work, that we have significant investments in, both from staff and faculty, and we understand the workflows. So we went through this project from its inception looking for the gaps in these services. We wanted to build something that was grounded with widely adopted platforms, filling those gaps identified by the community. And we understood the need for modular, interoperable publishing solutions that are open source and owned by the community. WDP, the web display and discovery portal, ingests content from manuscript submission systems like Janeway and OJS, as well as institutional repositories such as DSpace, into a unified discovery and display layer, allowing library publishers to create a cohesive and seamless rendering experience that carries their institutional branding throughout it. So it's an elegant UX. It pulls in data from a host of systems and aggregates all of that. We also have an analytics dashboard that aggregates metrics from upstream submission systems like OJS, Janeway, and DSpace, and from the web delivery platform itself to populate a series of curated visualizations and reports. Workflow reports compile metrics on content flow through the systems, giving publishers and editors insight into capacity. Usage reports compile readership metrics to give a holistic view of reader engagement across platforms. The other thing that the community told us is that there's a wide range of implementations. So we have institutional members like CDL that have a staff of highly technical people and are able to host some of the components themselves, where we have others who want a completely hosted solution. So we understood that the implementation of this would need to be flexible and dynamic and react to the situation at the institution. Affordable, reliable hosted service models that make the benefits of open source more accessible to libraries of all sizes. So from emerging library publishers to large institutions and consortial publishing initiatives. These are some of the key parts. And as we've said, each of these components are essentially standalone, and we put a good bit of work into the connectors between them. How do we get data to move seamlessly from Janeway into the WDP? How do we collect metrics and move those into the analytics portal? So these are all challenges that we have addressed through a MVP into the pilots, and have solid plans to extend the functionality of each of these platforms moving forward. I'd like to turn it over to Andy Byers from Janeway to describe the Janeway pilot.
Hi, so I'm going to give a quick overview of who we are and how we came to be involved with NGLP. Initially, we started building Janeway at the Center for Technology and Publishing at Birkbeck, headed up by myself and Professor Martin Eve, who runs the Open Library Humanities. We started building the system essentially to meet OLH's publishing needs. And during that sort of process, we were approached by a number of different people who were interested in, as Dave was saying, a hosted solution for journals. And we kind of segued into becoming a service provider. It wasn't our original intention, but it's something we've started doing. And so now we're hosting over 200 journals with clients across the US, UK, and Europe. And one of the things that we like to tell people about Birkbeck is that we're a charity by Royal Charter. So we're not a for-profit organization. We can't be bought or sold. We're operating purely for our charitable aims. And so the solution that we're offering through the NGLP pilot, if we go to the next slide, Kate, is Journals IR sort of turnkey solution where we use Janeway as the sort of journal workflow process. It's behind the scenes, it runs your workflow, so you can, submission, review, copy editing, and production are all done through the Janeway workflow. And then those articles flow out of Janeway into the NGLP WDP for a unified display. And at the moment, we're using the WDP for displaying IR content, but in the future, we intend to offer an institutional repository hosted IR as well. And we're looking at DSpace, Invenio, and Haiku at the moment. And we haven't picked a solution for that yet, but we're going to be looking into those. And as I say, we use the WDP that's being developed as part of the NGLP platform to provide a unified front end for both of those. And we offer we're going to be offering some additional services as well. And if we can go to the next slide. So we'll be also looking at hosting the analytics dashboard as part of that package, and customizing OpenID Connect authentication so we can have single sign-on, bunch of other bits. And then one of the things that we're going to be doing is that the solution we're offering is unbundled. So whichever parts of it you want, you can pick and choose, and we'll do a custom solution based on those. For the pilots we're running at the moment, they're all exactly the same. They're running Janeway for workflow, WDP for front end, AD for analytics. And we haven't got the IR fixed yet, but we will be looking at that in the future. But anyone who's interested can pick and choose which parts of the system they're interested in using. And one of the things we're going to be working on is we have we're going to be working on a push system whereby Janeway, instead of being pulled by the WDP, will actually push things into it, and so then they become immediately available. That's the next feature that we're going to be working on. We've already done this for sort of ETD content that we're using. We want to do that for journal content as well, because we want that to be available right away. And anyone who wants to get in touch with me, there's my contact details. You can drop me an email. I'm happy to have a chat with anyone who wants to have a discussion about what we're doing already and what we're going to be doing in the future.
Thanks, Andy. I think I'm next up.
Yes.
So I'm here, Catherine Mitchell from CDL. I'm here to talk about the use case, the scenario of the consortial library publisher who's running local technologies to support that work. And before I jump into the details of our pilot, I thought I might just give you a little bit of background on eScholarship for anyone who's unfamiliar with what we're doing and what particular challenges we're facing in our library publishing program. So this year marks the 20th anniversary of eScholarship as a library publisher at UC. The program is run by the California Digital Library in collaboration with University of California campus library staff, and it provides open access publishing services for the 10 UC campuses, the Lawrence Berkeley Lab, and the UC Office of the President. We have found a compelling niche for the library publisher in supporting emerging fields, interdisciplinary work, the work of underrepresented voices in scholarly communication, and any other kind of publication that either isn't well served by the commercial publishing marketplace or seeks an alternative to it. But eScholarship isn't just a publishing platform, as you can see on the slide. It's also a repository, and as such provides access to over 300,000 research objects, from preprints to white papers to electronic theses and dissertations. It's also a repository where UC faculty continue to deposit now over 100,000 author versions of their publications under the UC open access policies. It's been important to us since the beginning of eScholarship to provide services for a broad range of scholarly output and to co-locate these items and provide unified access to them regardless of type. We have a lot of different stakeholders at UC, from entire campuses to departments to multi-campus research units, each with different goals for their content and different notions of the kinds of collections they want to build within the system. As you can see, we're operating at scale. As the consortial library publisher for 10 UC campuses, we find that we are frequently overwhelmed with the task of keeping up with the demand for our services, which is a problem we definitely didn't have 20 years ago. So after years of pleading our case for more staffing to support this significant undertaking, I am thrilled to announce that we have just hired a new and now second publications manager, and we will be sharing the details of that hire soon. So next slide, please. eScholarship has also faced some unique needs and challenges in working to provide access to this range of materials and range of expectations within a single platform. The metadata is inconsistent, yet we need a global search. The affiliations are often multiple for a single publication, and we need to display that publication everywhere that makes sense while still maintaining a single version. The ambitions of our authors are vastly distinct, with some seeking to redesign scholarly communication entirely, and others happy to stick with what they know, but now in an open environment. We've attempted to use established platforms, but have found none that are well positioned to support this kind of complexity in a coordinated publisher plus IR role. I should mention that we worked originally with the Berkeley Electronic Press to develop a combined publishing and IR platform, which later became bPress's Digital Commons product, but we eventually outgrew that as well. And as a result, we have found it necessary over the past 2 decades to build custom solutions to try to accommodate the complexities that we face and to provide a set of compelling publishing and distribution services to our academic community. Next slide, please, Kate, thanks. The problem with custom solutions is that they're custom, and that means that when it comes to maintaining them, we're the only ones home. So while we have been in the business for years of providing just the kind of publishing plus IR solution that NGLP is working toward, the high-level view of CDL's current architecture on this slide explains why we're thrilled to be piloting NGLP's tools and platforms. As you can see, all of our current systems are both idiosyncratic and out of date. This pilot is enabling us to engage more directly in community-led open source platforms for our journal and IR workflows, where the work of maintaining and even advancing the systems is shared among a broad set of stakeholders. So in place of our custom IR framework and our long ago forked and now pretty much obsolete OJS instance, we will be trying on DSpace 7.0 and Janeway, respectively. And in place of our custom web display system and stats service, both of which take a significant toll on our technical team just to maintain and lack some of the features our diverse group of stakeholders would like, we'll be using state-of-the-art solutions created within the NGLP project for aggregated display of content and analytics. We're really excited to test run the web delivery platform because it isn't just a front-end display. It's a schema-driven system that has the flexibility and the robustness to avoid the kinds of genericizing compromises that we too often face in displaying a range of content that's diverse. And we're also really looking forward to being able to track activity in the system from a centralized analytics dashboard. Running 90 journals with a small staff is a tall order. Being able to proactively identify those publications and those research units that are flagging will give us an opportunity to intervene and provide assistance in a timely way. And our users can't wait for usage stats that render us something more than a spreadsheet. So we will be running this pilot with metadata and scholarly content from UC Merced and UC Irvine, alongside our production system that we currently run to support all 10 campuses, to test its ability to support the workflows and services that our large community of authors and researchers have come to expect. Our pilot will include substantial testing with current eScholarship editors and authors to ensure that these systems not only meet expectations, but exceed them, with more intuitive submission and publication workflows, richer content display options, and deeper data about the publication activity within journals and academic units, as well as richer usage data for the publications themselves. We have high hopes for this set of solutions as a potential replacement for our current technology stack and are excited to watch the built-in extensibility unfold, making it easy to slot in other journal management systems, other institutional repository platforms, and new systems that support new kinds of scholarly research outputs as they continue to emerge in this space. Thank you. And now on to Clay.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to start today by kind of introducing Longleaf Services because we're relatively new to the library world. We're very happy to be here, but it's not a name that might be familiar to a lot of you. Longleaf started back in 2005. We're a not-for-profit that spun out of the University of North Carolina Press. And we're still very much affiliated with the press. It was started as a consortium of university presses to address the problems of the day back then, which was largely around moving books, physical books, from point A to point B. So physical fulfillment was a real drain on resources from the university presses. And so we gathered 6 presses together back then to build some scale and allow us to do some back office functionality that would allow the presses to not have to think about warehousing and hopefully, serve their authors better by not having to focus on it. So it worked. It was very successful. And if you fast forward 10 years later to 2015, Longleaf received a grant from the Mellon Foundation to test the hypothesis that if such central services work for university presses, other publishing services might work as well. And so if they gave us some seed money to kind of build out services and gave us really a broad mandate to listen to our community, find out the services they need, and so to focus on those things so that they can kind of take those off the table for them and allow them to do what they do best, which is publish scholarly works. And so we do everything from full editorial design and production services, website design and project management. We do a lot of centralized negotiation on behalf of our presses for things like printing, cataloging, et cetera. Basically, as I said, anything that can allow them to focus on other things. And so it turned out that worked too. The hypothesis was correct. We've gone from 16 to 18 fulfillment clients in that time period. And the other great thing about it was that as a mission-driven organization, we were able to build out services that were applicable to not just our fulfillment clients. So we help a lot of university presses, basically the whole community. And it was thinking about that, our ability to do that kind of work, that got me really interested in expanding our mission beyond university presses. And my thinking was that our scale could benefit a lot of other kind of campus-based publishing activities, excuse me. And about that time, I attended the Library Publishing Forum in 2018 in Minneapolis and was just thrilled by that community and their passion for what they do. And it was confirmed in my mind that we could somehow be of help to them. And working with Melanie and her group, we did a small pilot, helping a few of the LPC member libraries do some work, mostly in the EDP side of things. And it was really great. We learned a lot. It was a small pilot, but we're still doing work for some of those libraries to this day. We got a project a couple of weeks ago. So that kind of worked too. And about that time was when the NGLP project kicked off, and we were thrilled to be part of it. It's allowed us to learn more about the library community in ways that we could possibly serve it. And it was also terrific that the focus, at least initially, has been on journals, because that was another opportunity area for us that we thought we were asked by our community repeatedly to do more in that area. And so it dovetailed nicely, with what we were already doing. So that's how we got basically to today. And today is really exciting because after almost a couple of years of work, watching everything kind of coalesce around these pilots is amazing. It's been a great UNC. So our pilot is going to focus on sort of a captive audience. As I said, we're part of UNC. UNC, not unlike California, is a system, a large system of 16 different campuses and a ton of different libraries. And there is a lot of journals activity happening. UNC Press alone already handles about 15 journals themselves. But in our scan of the campuses, there's a lot of other journal activity that's happening just ad hoc across the group. So what we're going to do is focus our pilot on those campuses. Basically, we're standing up an instance of the WDP and the AD that Dave described. We also have a partnership now in place with Andy, well, not with Andy, but with Janeway, that allows us basically to put together a string of services around journals that we didn't have before. And the way we're going to sort of market this and add content to the system is we're going to use existing content that we already have access to through the UNC journals. We're going to pour a lot of that content into the WDP so that we can demo it in real time, so that we can kind of demonstrate to the folks that are already very, very interested. They have been from the outset in the project, but to show really the power of the project or of the platform. We're hoping to then gain access to more journal content that we don't already have, as well as reducing some sort of challenges to entry for a lot of startup journals. We've heard there's a lot of journals out among the system that need some help. It's a challenging technical thing to do, and so we really hope that we can facilitate that happening. So, excuse me. That's basically what we're planning to do. As I said, in addition to a lot of enthusiasm from the individual campuses, the system itself is very keen on this project and seeing it work. Much like Catherine described, the ability to sort of pull all of these different bits of content into one platform and allowing you to sort of take different cuts at it, whether it be a campus or a subject matter area. That power is something that a system like UNC really needs, but does not have. I mean, they don't have anything like that. And their eyes get big when we talk about, sort of being able to deliver something like that for them. So that's what we're going to try to do. And also, I guess in the future, UNC is one of 18 children, but they're only one. We service a lot of other presses outside of the other 17 presses that are fulfillment clients, and a lot of others. But I think for me, the most exciting thing is once we've proven this concept with UNC is to take it well beyond and sort of offer our whole suite of kind of modular offerings, including this great new platform to anyone who wants to participate. So that's our long-term goal. And the other thing is, although I was excited, as I said before, that this was focused on journals, most of the work we do is with books. And so in the long run, I'm really curious to see how this architecture could be used for book content as well. So that's us. Thank you.
Thank you, Clay. And also Catherine and Andy for describing your pilots and how those have come about and what your goals are moving forward. So this has been an intensely collaborative process. We have weekly meetings and discussions and joint documents and design reviews. And we have really tried to incorporate as many points of view and use cases as we possibly could. And so these pilots really will demonstrate the minimum viable product for NGLP, both on the WDP and the AD side. And it gives us opportunities to really test some of our assumptions and plan for future development and expansion of each of the components. Of course, there's always room for more pilots, and we're very interested in that, more service providers and service models. And there are some that we're actually working on at this point. We are very interested and have had extensive conversations with an OJS and DSpace pilot. And we're also having discussions about extending the analytics dashboard to incorporate more events and have different flow mechanisms into the AD to support different use cases. The extensibility and modularity means that we can continue to morph this system. We can grow it, we can add components to it, we can enhance the functionality of the core system. And we keep an eye out, or please keep an eye out for our plenary session at the in-person conference. And this recording should be out soon after. We're really interested in hearing from the community. We want to discuss your thoughts and impressions of how much we've done at this point and future directions. So thank you very much. We'll open it up now for the Q&A.
Thank you, Dave. And if I might just jump in, since it's a bit unheard of that we're running a full 15 minutes ahead of schedule, I just wanted to mention that this week our team is releasing the Forest Framework, which is the values and principles framework that is the foundation of everything that we do. So we really encourage everyone to go take a look at that framework. And on that subject, I'd like to ask all of our panelists, what does values alignment mean to you, and how is it reflected in your participation in this pilot?
I'll jump in first. That's a great question. We are working within a university system, and as such, we feel that it's really, really important that we position the university not only to outsource the distribution of its research, but to also take responsibility for some of that distribution of research. certainly the case that the scholarly communication marketplace is not sufficiently diversified to attend to all of the needs. I should say the commercial, did I say the commercial? I'll say it. The commercial scholarly communication marketplace is not sufficiently diversified to attend to all of the needs of, you know, every discipline and every field. Some things just work well within that setting and others don't. And so it's very important to us that we aren't making decisions about what we publish based on the market size and the likelihood of returning revenue. That we're really in the business of providing access and not selling the research from the institution. And so, you know, working with open source platforms, working with, you know, values aligned service providers, these are all things that help us stay close to those values and to make sure that the information is not only spread as widely as possible, but we have as large a community of people who can produce that knowledge and participate in the production of knowledge as possible.
Yeah, I'll go next. I think one of the most interesting things to me about this project was the values and principles, stuff that so many people in this group have worked hard on. As I said, we, you know, up until very recently, we've been focused entirely on university presses, all of which were not-for-profit, very, very much mission-driven organizations. So I'll be candidly, we didn't have to think about it much. You know, we were in our own little bubble, and you know, I'm selling services, that's true, but we're a not-for-profit as well. And you know, my, you know, running joke is, you know, we're not making any money. Our services and efficiencies are designed to help them lose less money, because, you know, every monograph that is published is losing money. So I feel like, for just speaking for me personally, this has opened my eyes to a way that to look a little differently, not so much at our clients, but, you know, we're in a position as a service provider to work with a lot of third parties. And, you know, I think subjectively always want to make sure the players that we work with are in a mission aligned. But now we have a tool to help us in a way that I've not had before, to not, you know, pull the subjectivity out of it and make it, you know, a scorecard, you know, sounds almost, you know, too harsh, but a way to objectively look at potential third-party players in a way that equalizes things and allows us to make good decisions. So I don't know if this answers your question, but for me, it's really amazing work that was done, and it's going to allow me to apply it in a way that I haven't had to consider before.
It's the perfect question to ask if Martin Eve was in the call. I think it's the kind of thing that he'd be very good at answering. Less so me, I'm a software engineer. So, I mean, I think from my perspective, the most interesting thing is the collaboration of service providers. You know, we're working with everyone essentially on this pilot, but we're working with everyone in different ways. You know, we're working with Clay's team. It's essentially a commercial agreement between two nonprofits. You know, we're providing the platform, but we're working with them so they can provide that to the people they're then providing that to. And then we're working differently with CDL, where we're providing technical support more than anything. They're running their own instance. And it's very interesting for me how that all works. And it's been very interesting to sort of bring that all together with NGLP. That doesn't answer your question, but that's the best I've got.
Kate, can I jump in again since we have so much time? The thing that I didn't address was the Farr's framework, and particularly, you know, specifically how it is supporting these values that I'm espousing. And thank you, Clay, for bringing that in. One of the things that I find particularly interesting about the way that this framework works is that it doesn't assume any sort of absolute value. So it's about progress toward a certain set of goals around a certain set of values. And it recognizes, the framework recognizes that some of this is aspirational. You know, some of it is just contextual. This is a young entity. It hasn't had a chance yet to achieve all of these, to get to a point in all with regard to all of these values that reflects, its ultimate goals. But there is a will there, and there is a commitment, and we can see progress toward those goals. And that feels to me more equitable, because in a strange way, very well-resourced companies sometimes can get to some of those values faster because they just have the wherewithal to achieve some of them. And some of them they never get to, perhaps, but it's really important to think always in terms of how old is this organization, how old is this effort, and how much resourcing has been available to it to get to these places. It's sometimes a matter of maturation and aspiration. So really glad that the forest framework attends to that and doesn't just assume a moment in time.
Thank you, panelists, for all your answers. I know we are a little bit early, but I see that there are some Q&As